Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first live session for the course Usability Engineering. My name is Neelarnab Dutta. I am a PMRF fellow from Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. So, so in this particular class, I will be covering the key concepts from week 1 lecture videos, and I'll be helping you in solving the assignments. However, since the nature of the assignments is objective, so I'll be not directly show you the answers or how to solve the objective type questions. Rather, I will try to give an overview of the key concepts that will be useful in solving those assignments. So this will be a doubt clearing session, so I want this session to be a bit interactive, so you can chat using the chat box, or you can just talk directly with me with your mic. So please feel comfortable. So this will be a I'll try my level best to give you an overview of the lecture 1 course content, and hopefully I'll be able to clarify your doubts. Okay. So let's start with the very basic question. Like, lot of you may be from industry, and some of you may be from educational institutes. So first of all, I would like to know from you, like, why you have enrolled for this particular course. So what aim and objectives you have in your mind? Yes. So you can use the chat box, or you can just directly speak over your mic. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Okay. Hi, Pavan. Hello, Pavan. Am I audible? Okay. So you would like to say something?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible. Okay, I'll be repeating this question. Since this is the first live session, so it will be helpful for me to understand your background. So if you are from industry or you are a student, so what sort of expectation you have from this particular course? So this will help me organize my material for the live sessions. And can you just give me a brief about, like, what's your background? Like, hello. Okay. So am I audible?
Yeah, please, sir.
Okay. So let's continue. I'm not able to hear you from. Okay. So let's start. Like, let's talk about the topic, the topic of this particular course, which is usability engineering. So what do you think? What is usability engineering? So you can use, if you have some issue with your mics, then you can use the chat box. Just
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
yes,
Hello.
you're audible. Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Pavan. Okay, I think I lost you again.
Yes, sir. I'm a design professional. I have done my bachelor. Hello. Yes, sir.
Wait.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Let me see if it is problem from my side. Mm, okay, I just tried to reconnect my internet. Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir,
you
you
are
are
audible.
audible.
Okay, okay, yes. Please go ahead. Okay, so what I heard from you that you are a designer and currently you are working somewhere.
Sir,
Sir,
I'm a
I'm a
design
design
professional.
professional.
I'm
I'm
working
working
as a
as a
product
product
designer,
designer,
sir,
sir,
right
right
Okay,
now.
now.
okay, okay. So product design and usability engineering are very close actually. So I'm also a product designer myself, and currently I'm doing my PhD in usability engineering. So I have a background of product design myself. So let me ask you this particular basic question: like, what do you understand by usability engineering? So any guesses? Okay. So usability engineering, you have two words here. One is usability. So if you have gone through the lecture
Sir,
video,
Sir,
it
it
focuses
focuses
on
on
improving the
improving the
usability
usability
or
or
when we
when we
interact
interact
with
with
the
the
system
system
service.
service.
so what do you mean by usability? So what is usability?
Usability
Is
is
basically
basically
the
the
term
term
which
which
helps
helps
user
user
to
to
access
access
the
the
products,
products,
whether
whether
it
it
is
is
and mobile
mobile
app
app
or
or
web
web
application,
application.
right?
Right.
So
So
this
this
term is
term is
basically
basically
used
used
whatever
whatever
we
we
create
create
should
should
be
be
best
best
in
in
case
case
for the
for the
user,
user
that
that
is
is
easy
easy
to
to
use,
use,
easy
easy
to
to
understand,
understand,
easy
easy
to
to
interact.
interact.
So vice
Vice
versa
versa
things
things
that
that
are
are
most
most
helpful
helpful
for the
for the
user
user
to
to
interact
interact
with
with
the
the application.
application.
Okay,
So
So
that
that
is
is
the
the
term
term
is
is
usability.
usability.
okay. So basically usability is a qualitative attribute which, so qualitative qualitative attribute which actually try to assess the ease of a system, how easy a system interaction is. Okay, so it assess the ease of interaction. Okay, and also legibility of information. So I think a lot of you are from different design backgrounds. Some of you might have a background from product design. Some of you might actually have a background from UX design. So I'll try to give an overview which is easy to understand from different backgrounds. So generally, what we do in a product design, like we come up with a some sort of need, initial need. So in case of product, we when we come up when we do a user study, we come up with certain needs and we try to create a product around it. Okay, and this product actually later is used by user. So this product is used by a user. So in today's world, the nature of the products are very much different. Like some of the products are like a medical device. Okay, a medical device system which use some sort of interface. Okay. There are some sort of applications which are again called software product, which again uses some sort of touch sensitive interface. Okay, and there are other software products like railway ticket booking, like your IRCTC websites, which also falls under the product category. So in usability engineering, we study the techniques and methods, and we engineer the interactions to make it easy to interact with the particular product. Okay, that's what is usability engineering. So basically, when we talk about interaction design, so let's hear this. Okay. So from the requirement perspective, okay, we have two set of requirements. One are, so in terms of design requirements, we have for interactive system we have two set of no design requirements. One group is more for information design. For example, I know what sort of content, what sort of data a particular application or a particular interface should display. Okay, and the other aspect is interaction design. Interaction design. So usability mainly assess the legibility of the information, okay, as well as the ease of interaction. Okay, and in this particular course we'll be learning about various technique methods which will help us in achieving these requirements, these criterias. Okay, so have you played any mobile game? So what is the most popular mobile game you have come across? Any
I sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Okay, so do you play any sort of smartphone games? So, like, what is the most popular smartphone game like you have heard about, or have you do you have any experience in game playing?
No, actually, I'm not very used to with any game.
Okay, okay, so you might have experience in at least railway ticket booking, IRCTC websites.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Okay, so what we look for in a railway ticket booking site? Generally, why we actually go to a website? Like,
Basically, the primary task is to find the train between the stations.
okay, okay, so basically, what we are look for is two aspect. One is you have a functional aspect, right? So the functional aspect is which is to book a ticket, and when that's what actually the overall product is designed for, okay, from a product design perspective. But when you actually go inside a website, what you do is actually you interact with buttons, you navigate across the website with
Right.
different features, different menus. Okay, so that's the interaction part I was talking about. So when someone designed a website like a railway ticket booking website, actually, so one has to design the information. Okay, what all needs to be there. It needs not be too cluttered. So information design uh, involve making the information legible and including appropriate information. It should be minimalistic. So all those sort of design decisions come into picture when someone design a railway ticket booking like website. And the other aspect is like how one will interact. Okay, so the choice of interaction element, the choice of features, like for example here if you see there it's like a clue, you have something written already like from. So when you click, so either it will give you a drop down. Okay, again if you type something like okay, something like some station like New Delhi, so once you start typing it will give you all sort of help and documentation to choose from. So those sort of interaction, the features, the design, actually what we engineer, okay, for
Right.
better usability. Okay, so that's what we do in usability engineering. Similarly, when we talked about smartphone game, like this is again a completely different requirement. So the requirement, the functional requirement for a railway booking site is to book a ticket. Okay. So this is probably like a someone's job in a month, probably in a week, or probably in a year. Okay. It's not something which people often want to access. Like it's not something for daily access. Okay. So that's the way how this particular particular websites are designed. However, if you see a smartphone game, it's the function is more for entertainment. Okay. So again, it should have a continuous immersive experience. Okay, it should have a immersive experience. Okay, so the requirements are different, and how you achieve that again, when you say we talked about requirements, design requirements. Here, the design requirements is information design. So for game, it is the game design. That means game level design, various stages. Okay, the content, the color, the environment, the character. All this comes under information design. Okay. The other aspect is like how the person will interact with these elements. So he want to have some sort of control over this particular character. Probably he will be using the same touch screen to move this particular character left and right, and just enjoy his gameplay. So a designer needs to think about the constraint he have in a game design is that he needs to utilize the same screen for information design as well as for interaction design. That's the reason why in smartphone design, in game design for smartphone, they use some sort of some space in the touch sensitive display itself to design some sort of interactive controls or buttons. If you touch there, this particular character will move forward, or he will shoot something like that. So this is a challenge again. So where we have the same interface to design both the information as well as the interaction design. However, in case of a railway ticket booking website, the information and interaction need not to be designed from the same media, using the same media. So we have the information here which are static. Okay. Most of the information we use here are static, and the interactive elements are actually these drop down menus, these click buttons. Okay, again the other navigational buttons once you go inside. Similarly, there are some sort of chat bot they recently provided with Indian Railways. So those are also some sort of interactive application that will help you faster booking a railway ticket. Okay. So so it all depends upon the context. Okay. Another example is a medical device. So have you uh, seen any sort of medical device interfaces? I mean, it's not very common someone to actually have access to medical facilities.
But I have seen some of them.
Okay. So in case of medical devices, again the core requirement, for example, if this particular interface is it looks like something like a high resolution CT scan, like HRCT scan of the thorax. Okay, thorax means the lungs. Okay, lungs area. So HRCT, high resolution CT scan. So the information requirement is very much clinical in nature. So again, the purpose here it's an entertainment. Here it is booking ticket. Here it is diagnostics. Okay, the purpose is diagnostics, and the information design we need to. What sort of information design we need is at the center space we need to visualize whatever that CT scan scans. Okay, so that's where a designer think like the position of the most important feature of this particular application. Secondly, there should be, I think these are some areas of the body, okay, represented by a visual diagram, as well as by clicking by, for example, chest, left ventricular, lower lungs. So those sort of details you can actually select here, so that the cities can actually provide you the exact information that you are looking for. On top of that, probably you will be requiring some sort of other diagnostic information that a doctor is looking for. So the entire system is designed from the perspective of a clinician. Okay. So if you see in these three applications, the user changes. Okay. Here probably the user is a, for example, a kid. Here probably a user is someone, who stays in a distance from his home. So very occasionally he use this particular website. Similarly, the user here is a doctor for a medical device interface. So the ease of use that we want to achieve is actually dependent upon the particular user. Okay, so this sort of design we call as user-centered design. Okay,
Right.
okay. So user-centered design means, so for every decision that you make for information design as well as for interaction design, you keep user as at the center of decision making. You consider the user's requirements at all the phases of design. Okay, so
Right.
that's basically what is and usability engineering is about. Okay, now, although usability engineering is a broad attribute, like it's like a usability. So usability is a qualitative marker or attribute. For example, if I say um, the cost of a house depends upon area, it depends upon the location. So there are other components. Similarly to that, there are other components of usability which actually determine how usable a particular interface is. Okay. So do you remember the components of usability? I think those were taught in the second lecture of the course.
What are the components of usability?
Yes. So there are total 7 components.
Okay.
So first one is learnability. Learnability. So learnability is a measure. So it's again a qualitative measure. So it basically assess how easy a interface is for a first time user. Okay. So how easy a system interface to learn for a first time user. Okay. So this is one aspect. For example, if you navigate the IRCT website, and again, if someone who is not skilled in a computer, skilled with computer, keyboard and mouse, and if you give this particular task of railway ticket booking, so probably it will be difficult for him. Probably if he is not used to railway ticket booking, and probably for that they have introduced that particular chatbot where actually probably if you speak, probably the chatbot will book a ticket for them. So again, this is a attribute of usability, a component which is something we measure qualitatively to
Right.
assess the usability of an interface. Okay. The second is efficiency. Efficiency is a measure of time. Okay, so how quickly quickly one can perform a task. Okay, so if you see this particular example, so railway ticket booking using this particular method by actually creating a login ID and then actually going inside and filling all sort of details probably will be time consuming. So probably someone can use a faster route by directly clicking this book ticket option and then asking the chatbot to choose a train for them. Okay, so this will improve the efficiency of this particular website. Okay, so
Okay.
efficiency is again a measure, so it is a measure of time. Okay, then you have memorability. So memorability means when someone stop using a particular interface and he come back after some time, then how easy it for him or her to recall the interface navigation or they recall the interactions. Okay, so that aspect is actually covered by this particular attribute, this component, memorability. Okay, so if something is too complex to memorize, generally in websites we provide some sort of help or pre-filled text. Okay, for example, in IRCT website, if you see, they have already provided something like two. Okay, and when you actually start typing, they will give some sort of help and documentation. Okay, again, if you select general. Okay, so this sort of features will allow someone to recall features. Okay,
Yeah, got it.
okay, so this is memorability. Then you then next is your errors. Okay, okay, so one important consideration or one I will not say consideration, one important requirement and aspiration of designer is to make a error-free interface. Okay, so although a designer always try to come up with a error-free design interface design with several iterations and interactions, still there can be errors which are not always possible to determine at the development or design phase. That's the reason why we often release first beta version of a software. Okay, so this is because so that more users can actually use that particular software or application, and then they give some sort of feedback, and based on that still you can improve that particular software interface. Okay, so this is a measure where actually you want a particular interface to be error free, and if there are errors you also want some way to recover from errors. Okay, so you need to provide some sort of way to recover from errors. So you might have seen in Windows, if there are some error occurred, sometimes it asks you to send that error message to Microsoft directly. Okay, so those are the features how they actually get the feedback, and they try to fix those bugs with some sort of updates. Okay, so this is again another important uh, component. Next
Okay.
is satisfaction. Okay. Now, satisfaction is a measure of fulfillment. Okay, fulfillment means how how satisfying and or how was the experience, the emotional experience in using a particular interface. Probably you might have seen, like playing a smartphone game with this sort of interactive controls is not often appreciated. I mean, like the gaming gamers actually who are pro gamers, they do not enjoy this sort of facility. What they do, like they try to connect some sort of joysticks. Okay, and then they try to play. Okay, so this is something what experience come into picture, and satisfaction is a measure for that. So this is again another component which actually determine how usable a particular interface is. So these are the five, okay, key components. Primary, these are like primary, and there are two additional. I'll say additional because these are a bit, they are secondary in nature and they are a bit partly similar to this. However, they are also some measure of usability. Okay, so one is effectiveness. The reason why I'll be saying like they are secondary because these are not always used to determine how useful a particular interface is. So effectiveness is a component which actually determine like how accurate a particular interface is. So accuracy of interaction. Okay, so generally this is already desired, like this is some sort of desired requirement, like a particular interaction needs to be accurate, needs to be effective. However, some interfaces which demand a more accurate interaction, they are actually this can be used as a measure of usability. So for example, in a smartphone game interface, you have some sort of navigational buttons which are again touch based. However, a person may accidentally touch a area here. Okay, so the system should be able to either not recognize or recognize. Okay, so this sensitivity or the accuracy of detection come into picture. So because these are not actually sometimes defined as physical buttons, because it may occlude the game behind, actual game behind. So sometimes they are just used with some aligned feature like some dotted lines, and it is often sometimes like the user can mistakenly put his thumb or fingers somewhere else. So their accuracy of interaction actually matters. Okay, so another component is engaging. Okay, so engagement is again something secondary because it is considered as obvious. Something needs to be there always in interaction design. However, some applications needs engagement. Okay, some applications needs engagement.
Okay.
So those can be similar to like the game playing. It needs some sort of engagement. Okay, so the controls should not hamper his game playing experience. Okay, so one should have should not it should not affect his his concentration, his engagement. Similarly, if you're making some sort of application for a medical device, probably again the interface or the kind of interaction the doctor make should not actually hamper his information collecting procedure, because he may be involved mentally in diagnostics. And for example, in this particular example, the doctor's mind is will not be actually trying to figure out where is the close button, where is this particular. Probably the doctor's mind is trying to analyze these particular reasons from clinical perspective. Okay, and suddenly this loading thing come in middle. Okay, so this will hamper your concentration, your engagement. So when someone design a interface for some sort of medical device, you need to keep in mind that it should not actually hamper the user engagement. Okay, So these are the seven components. Okay. So any doubts?
Uh, so I have one question here for the effectiveness.
Okay.
So is it more for the development side or on the design side? How can we define?
See, this, it can come from both perspective. For example, you, I'll give you the same example. For accuracy, for example, if you make three buttons which are very small in size, and there are, sorry, for example, there are three, two, five, seven buttons in a very
Mhm.
close proximity, and your thumb is this big. I mean,
Okay,
like,
got it.
so this is again a design thing. Like, the designer make a mistake, giving so many controls in that small space, which are smaller than your this thing. Okay. Again, this can be like your development perspective. Also, this can be like for a developer, the sensitivity. Like, for example, if he thinks this is the sensitivity, but his capacitance sensitivity, he is giving this big. Okay, even if the user touch here, it still detects. Okay, understood. Again, for example, this is a button for move left and this is a button for move right, and the field is this big, and if a user actually places thumb somewhere in the middle, so probably the system will not give you accurate result. So this
Right.
is a mistakes from developer perspective.
Mhm.
This is a mistake from design perspective.
And for the satisfaction level, like we can measure or monitor this satisfaction level only by user interview, or do we have any other method?
Mostly, whenever you have some sort of online platform,
Mm.
whenever customer return to that same particular website, if that particular website has login information, all this thing, then the companies or the application, they have some sort of log data to monitor, how frequently actually the particular person visit their site. So that's something they use for measuring customer satisfaction, although that's not a direct measure since it's not possible actually. But interviewing a customer base, a focus group, is always a good idea as a measure of to identify how satisfied the people are. And again, satisfaction. See, what is the difference between, if I say this looks very similar? One is efficiency versus effectiveness. Okay. If today, because I'm telling you now, probably now these things will be fresh in your mind, but after 1 month, if you again try to come across these terminologies, efficiency versus effectiveness, actually for many people they use these things synonymously. Okay. However,
Mm.
these are two different things. Like, efficiency always measure how fast, like how quickly you can actually do a particular task. And wait, and where's my mouse? Okay. And effectiveness is like how accurate. Okay. Similarly, satisfaction and engagement. Okay. So satisfaction versus engagement, although they looks related, engagement. However, difference is that satisfaction is after you actually use a particular interface. It is at the after completion. This is like after completion, and this is during your task execution.
Right.
Okay, so this is engagement is a measure how engaging a particular interface is a measure when actually you are during the uh, execution of particular task. So you are involved in a particular process, and it's a measure like how you are involved, how concentrated you are in doing that particular task. Satisfaction is like after completion.
Engagement is the part of satisfaction.
Yes. I mean, like, you can say that. That's why these are secondary, uh, components. So some these are somehow merged in this. However, like initially when these components are defined for usability, they define only these initial five features. But later, research community have identified like these are not actually enough for define certain certain aspects of usability. For example, as I explained, like these issues, like design issues of this and that. So then that's where they actually come up with a new component like effectiveness. Similarly, because efficiency do not define effectiveness. Also, although you know effectiveness increases efficiency. So something when it is more effective, more accurate, it will obviously increase the efficiency because every task is will be accurate. So you can speed up your overall execution task. But again, somehow there are differences. Like it's not only number of steps; it's also like efficiency deal with shortcuts.
Right, right.
Shortcuts.
I have one more thing, like for the memorability. So the point memorability can be improved by match the system with the real world examples. So is
Yes,
it true?
yes, true. So
So
when
for an example, you have shown the mobile application with the game function. So their key buttons are almost like what exactly happens in the remote control. Or if it is a car game, so we can create a steering wheel kind of.
yes, so this is
So
called
this is
affordance. So
right.
in product design, we call that affordance. So affordance means what we are used to. So you will always, for example, you have a door and there's a handle. You have an intuition
Mm.
that you will always push down to
Right.
actually, unlock the door. So they in interaction design they use similar features in a like in a for something else, but they try to give a visual look of a handle, and they expect that people will actually move this particular thing, slide this particular thing down to open the particular application. So this is again affordance. So affordance they use from real world objects application, and they try to take the benefit of that in interaction design. Again, that will help memorability. Okay. Again, memorability also deal with like minimalistic design. So affordance is one aspect. Is like how you can easily remember. So affordance deal with remembering, easy recall. Minimalistic determines like easy to remember. For example, if you have only five features, it is easy to remember. But a remote control with for example, you have two remote control. One is like with 30 buttons, one is like only three buttons, and a
Mm.
voice, a voice interface. So this is easy to memorize than this particular interface. I think you may realize that no one actually know like which channel belongs to which particular channel number. It's very difficult. Only few people like remember like okay, whatever channel you are used to in your daily activities or daily TV programs, those channels only you remember. So but that's not the case with your voice based remote controls, where actually you can press a button and say like okay GTV, so it will just uh, switch this GTV channel. Okay.
Okay.
So okay, so let's move. Okay,
Yeah.
so here is a problem for you guys to analyze. Okay, so I'm giving you the same example as discussed previously of IRCTC, and you need
Mhm.
to identify what are the key usability components to consider for a web interface.
for pivot or for the particular selected area, the iterated one.
I mean, like I'm just giving an example here in a as a picture, the IRCTC website. Like out of these seven usability components, which
Mhm.
components you think are the most important to consider for a website design like IRCTC? So this exercise will help you to understand like how designers actually use these concepts uh, to control their interaction designs. So
Right.
so so one is those. So I'll just, if you forget, like learnability, efficiency, memorability, errors, satisfaction, effectiveness, and engaging. Okay. So out of these seven, which components you think are the most important for a website design like this? And you need to tell me why.
Okay, so first thing is the efficiency. It should be efficient because a huge user base will use this application.
Which one is
Yes,
it?
sir.
You said efficiency.
Sir, I feel learnability will be the most important thing here. As we know, IRCT sites, there's a lot of navigation and operations user need to do for booking the ticket. So if the first time, uh, if any user is using the first time, then it's very hard to find out the ways because there is a lot of steps. So I feel if learnability will be there, then user can book the ticket easily.
Okay. I'll say one thing here, like sometimes imagine like when we are designing a website like IRCTC, we do not generally consider that a new user will come, okay, for the like who have no experience in computation or computer applications. So why I'm saying this, because I'm asking you what are the key usability components. So learnability is, if you see, it's always a component that one needs to consider in interface design. It's obvious, like it should not be alien. At least it should not be alien to users. Okay. However, if something are intuitive, okay, we do not need to consider learnability, you know, additionally. What I mean is by that is that
Yes.
something when we are used to, like we are used to seeing drop down menus, we are used to seeing um, the calendars, select calendars in our daily life, like in mobile applications, uh, and like in other applications also, in banking apps also. So do you think, like, of course learnability is required if you make something for the first time, but if someone already have experience with other websites like banking apps or other booking websites, then probably learnability is not something very important one need to consider.
Yes. Right.
Okay, I mean, it's not, see, learnability comes when it is difficult. You need to
Yes.
understand like how difficult is the navigation. So navigation, what we navigate actually, we navigate across the information architecture. Okay. So
Right.
I'm not saying you are wrong. Actually, I'm not saying you are wrong. You are right. Actually, reliability is important. It is always important, but it is obvious. I am asking you which key aspects you will consider the most.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So what about efficiency? Let's just go through one by one. Like I just want to know your point of view. It's okay if you are wrong or I'm wrong. I may be also wrong, but just I want to understand like what sort of logics you have, because that's where actually you as a designer needs to make some decisions. So what about efficiency?
So efficiency is basically what we discuss. It's more about the the speed of the like loading speed, we can say, and how easily user can find out what he is looking for.
Yes.
So these are the points for efficiency.
Okay, so do you think efficiency is important to make it a faster, or to say
Yeah,
efficiency?
important. Yes, because like one case we have here is a Tatkal booking. So in this case, efficiency is more important.
Yes, yes. So that's correct. So see, Tatkal booking needs very fast booking time. Like in 10 minutes, things get booked. If you have emergency,
Right.
if you cannot book a ticket, then it will be a big problem. So that's the reason
Right.
why you need some sort of efficient way, shortcut way to actually move to a more streamlined process, which actually reduce your time. That's why improving efficiency by providing some sort of shortcut is an important criteria for IRCTC website. Okay, so
Okay. Yeah.
so here actually one aspects come into picture. It is like novice user versus expert user. Okay, so this is one aspect like Tatkal. So Tatkal versus regular tickets is a requirement that is it's like a phenomenon or a procedure that has been defined by the government. Okay, so you don't have any control over it. Okay,
Hmm.
but something like a novice user and experienced user, what happens like if certain websites which are actually which you often use to now IRCTC, I'm not talking about IRCTC website. AdSense is probably something where you like probably you don't access every in your daily life, but certain applications like Facebook or probably YouTube where you actually access all the time, and they are actually, or Amazon. Imagine Amazon. Probably people use Amazon or Flipkart, like every week, every month. Okay, so though in those websites, you need to provide some sort of provision for experienced user who actually want to avoid the task flow of a beginner. Okay, so in those cases you actually need to provide them with some sort of shortcuts. So
Okay.
in Amazon, if you see, there are filters. Okay, there are filters which you can use to select a particular item that you are looking for. So a novice user probably will go to the Amazon search bar and he will type, okay, I need, for example, if you want a spectacles, so you can search like spectacles, okay, for men. Then lot of spectacles will come. Then you will look for brand by brand. But there are also other ways how you can actually navigate through easily by using filters. So those filters are actually shortcuts used for experienced user who actually are used to the platform. Okay, so initially when someone utilize a IRCTC website, probably he can use this particular process. However, once he is used to and get he sometimes want to be a bit quick in the particular process, so he may need some sort of speed up things. Okay, so they are probably you need to provide them some sort of shortcuts. Okay. Yes, efficiency is one. What about memorability?
Yeah, memorable for the term memorability. There is one example in the info box that is from to two.
Mm.
So when user click anything like keyword, so a drop down appear with the related information. or related platform or station name, right? And after selecting any one, so it saves the station name already.
Okay.
So it is an feature of this application. So this is the technical one, but it is good to remember my previous election. That one is a good example they put here, right? And another, yeah, that is the one I can see right now.
Okay, so I'll just give you a something more conceptual. Like you are right. Like I'll give you the conceptual angle to it. See, if when you are designing a website, I told you before, you are designing two things. One is information design, okay, and one is interaction design, okay. So when you are
Yeah.
designing information, okay, if there are a lot of information, then there is something called information overload, okay. So you will not be
Yeah.
able to remember
Yes,
things,
sir.
okay. So information overload, because this is something like uh, needs some sort of cognitive processing. So if you provide too many information in your website, so there will be information overload.
Yeah.
So in information design, you need to make the information legible in such a way that it is easy to remember. It is how you will achieve easy to remember is by making things simple, like minimalistic design. However, if something cannot be made simple because of complexities, like a lot of informations are required, in that case you use this kind of pre-filled information, which will actually help in recall. Okay, so one
Right.
is remember, one is recall. So this is information design. Next is interaction design. Now imagine if there are a lot of interactions involved in terms of button press. There are some sequential buttons, one after another. You press first that, then you press next, then you go to like ATM machine. If you go, if there are in ATM machine, if instead of four buttons, if or eight button, if there there would be like interfaces with like 20 buttons, people would get issues like in terms of memorability. So from that aspect,
Yes.
actually, you need to consider this particular in a component. Okay. So what about errors?
One question here. In this website, I can see there are multiple different colors for different buttons or different links. So I can say that this is a bad example. You can see here in the Disha portal, the
Okay.
chat box,
Mhm.
we have two buttons, book tickets and support.
Yes.
So they both look like a primary button. I could not here the book ticket is important one than a support.
Mhm. Okay. So,
And another button is search that is with the orange color. The login one with blue color. The alert says background.
mhm. Yes.
So is it cool or
Yes, these are again comes under information design. So legibility of information is not there because the choice of colors are wrong. I mean, again, maybe they did not prioritize the information. Like book tickets should maybe only bold. The support should not may not be bold.
hmm,
It may not maybe something like gray, or maybe it only have an outline in blue, not in solid blue. So probably those decisions, making those decisions in a design will make a better website. And this is again a government website
right?
developed by TCS, probably as the reason why a lot of these decisions are poor. Okay. Uh, but you are right. Like there are a lot of information which are of not equal importance, but still they use similar tones. And
So
giving
it
this.
could be a good example of memorability if the book ticket colors could be in the orange, like the search one. So user can easily find out that he could do something here with the same
So if you
booking pattern.
study color theory in visual design, there is something called contrast. and then you need to use what is called complementary colors. So when you design
Yeah,
a
and
color palette for UI design, probably you use those concepts. Okay.
right.
Okay. So next is errors. So do you think there are chances of errors, or need requirement for? So what do you think about this particular component?
Actually, there is no lot more things to do instead of booking. So uh, don't think anything here that we can say error, but error prevention maybe. Uh, yeah, like for the error prevention, we have some examples after login this website. Whenever I cancel the ticket or whenever I finalize the ticket, they ask me to confirm once.
Mhm.
Right. So these kind of examples we have in this portal.
Okay. So error like component you need to consider like how severe is the error. Okay. So severity of error
Right.
and the consequence of that severity is something what you need to look for. So what will happen if there are some typing error? In case of here from New Delhi, you type Nan Delhi. So the system will try to show you some sort of help, like okay, this may be the word, but if you make some error, probably system will not give you the exact destination. Okay, so those are error recovery
Right.
ways. However, the severity of this error is not that much. So uh, apart from the technical internet issues, like at the time of payment gateway fails or something, connection issues, so those does not come under actually interaction design errors. So I think errors have a least importance in this kind of interfaces. Okay. Although those are like not like non-essential, but like least essential, I would say. So for example, efficiency is something like important, memorability is again important. Okay, what about satisfaction?
Right. Uh, I think user can reach their goal by finding the train between two stations and with the minimal information they need to put for the first screen. I think after search they need to log in. But here in this screen, I think they are good enough to understand and they can easily put the information between the reserve station and go to the search button.
Okay.
So I think the output is satisfactory from this website.
Okay, so see, most of these satisfaction, these sort of components actually need some sort of competitive analysis or benchmarking. So what happened? Like for ticket
Mhm.
booking, you have, we as a human always compare when it comes to satisfaction. So which one you prefer most, Flipkart or Amazon? Both allow you to, buy something. So
Mhm.
someone might they prefer Amazon over Flipkart, maybe because it includes most of the items. But if you want to buy some probably cheaper products, or if you want to get groceries, probably Flipkart is something someone want to use. So probably based on your requirement and your competitive benchmarking, you actually determine the satisfaction level, because there is some if there is something always to compare with, your satisfaction no, depends on that. So similar to IRCTC, you have your Make My Trip. So you can try booking ticket from Make My
Right.
Trip. You can try from other sources like Go Video. And when you use the IRCTC native website, and if you compare their experiences, probably uh, previously IRCTC used to be very bad. It used to be very poor interfaces. So people
Mm.
often prefer to use these websites to actually go to IRCTC and then book tickets. But these days, somehow IRCTC also, the interfaces got improved. So it's also there, is there in terms of satisfaction. But the point here I want to make is that when you try to analyze this user satisfaction, you always compare with other products. So without comparison, actually, it's very difficult to define the satisfaction. Okay. Effectiveness.
Uh, Sorry to interrupt. Like the competitive analysis could be have a broad vision for that, because like it is not based for the interface only. If I compare IRCTC to Make My Trip and Goa review, like sometimes it happens like Make My Trip give me more reward points and offers, and still IRCTC has no such functionalities. But still, people use IRCTC most in comparison to Make My Trip. Make it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
So
those are
in
there. Those are there.
what
See,
format?
if you open a Make My Trip website, at one go, actually you can define everything. If you see the Make My Trip, if you want to choose a flight, you can give a date. You can give like from to destination, then return flight
Right.
also, and you just search. So
Right.
all the parameters it considers at one go, and then it shows you the set of flights available. But if you consider Make My Trip here, this particular interface only give you from, to, classes, date, okay, and search. Once you do this search, actually it goes inside, and there are list of trains with multiple dates, okay, and there actually you can select, again you have to select 2AC or 3AC, and then payment option and go to pay. And your return tickets you can book only when actually you finished your forward journey, and then it asks for your return journey. Okay, so those are the difference in interactions. So some might require, they want probably faster interactions, so probably they may prefer those websites better than IRCTC. Okay, so that may be like one of the reason I'm just giving, apart from those offers and the promos. Okay. So what about effectiveness?
Effectiveness. Uh, I can say this website is effective because it is solving the user problems and
Yes.
in the satisfactory manner.
Mhm. Okay, so this website is doing this effectively, and in designing this, effectiveness is a obvious thing, and we do not need to give well, like much importance to it. I mean, like it is like something like it has to be. It's not something like key components that we must consider. Okay, so effectiveness is has to be there, but I'll not say this is like something of priority. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Engaging. So engaging is probably something is not important for a ticket booking website, because this is not something you use in continuous basis, and hardly you use it for 5 to 10 minutes for ticket booking, and then you are done with your task. So engagement and your involvement with the interaction is not that much important actually. So these are like some of the least important components that actually you need to consider in the design. Okay, so the main idea of this particular exercise is to understand, like, although you have seven components, not all the components are of, of greater importance for all the application areas. Okay, so for example, here efficiency, memorability, uh, is the most important, and satisfaction is probably one. Okay, so these are if someone asks you, like, if you have to design a new website for a ticket booking, and which like what will be your value propositions, at what aspect you will be considered. Okay, so then you can say, okay, it is obvious that I will be considering learnability, error, it will be error free, effectiveness, and engagement is not equal, but my system will be efficient, it will be easy to memorize, and it should give a satisfying experience to the user. So this can be your design goals to provide a better usable application. Okay, so that's how we actually logically determine, like, what should be which particular components of usability you need to be considering in a particular design. Again, while evaluating a design, like, this exercise will let you know that when we are evaluating certain design, we actually choose, like, which sort of usability components we will be considering for this particular application. Okay, so okay, next problem, I'll just quickly try to give you an overview. So another problem is the design of a flight deck interface. So you have seen there's so many controls. Okay. So here, if you say learnability is important, at
Yeah,
least.
important factor.
Yes, because it's not easy for a newcomer or a new pilot to know these things by heart, and every aircraft have different controls, and this is like this also this the f- the companies, they keep it secret, like what sort of features a particular interface provide. For example, in India, if you see, we have the fighter jets like Tejas, we have then the Rafale. So it is a priority for Indian Air Force that the enemy nation should not get info about what all features this particular interface provide. Okay, so these, there are some sort of secrets they maintain. Okay, so learnability is again something like, if you are used to one particular fighter aircraft, it's not the same like you will go and fly another aircraft. Okay, because they come up with different navigation system, different interfaces, different controls. Okay, some are fly-by-wire, some are like fiber optics, and the old aircrafts are like the mechanical, uh, electromechanical controls, interactions they provide. So early MiG fighter aircraft, if you see MiG 21 and the Sukhoi, and they have more like analog controls. All are analogs. You don't have LCDs. They have buttons, all sort of buttons. Then nowadays you have the new Indian, like the France Rafales, the fighter jets. So do you know these aircrafts? Do you know about these?
Yes.
Okay. So they, it's like it's very easy to control. Like, they have only single stick navigation, and also a very minimalistic design. Okay. Again, Tejas is also inspired from the F-16. fighter aircrafts, so they are also now have digital interfaces. So it's not easy to learn, like, well, it's not even for experienced pilot, it's not easy to learn the navigations or the controls of a cockpit, okay, the interface. So learnability is one important aspect, okay. So when someone will ask you to design a, the interface, the new interface for a aircraft, then you need to consider these things, okay. So probably you need to consider the aspects of affordance, which is like the the similarity with the previous fighters, so that it is easy for the your fighters to relate, so easy for relate and recall. So those things one can actually decide. And the other component is efficiency, okay. And this is again very important, because you cannot uh, you need to reduce number of tasks. You cannot give multiple controls for doing one particular task in aircraft, previous aircraft. So if you see, World War II, that time, that era's aircraft, you have one control, which is like like this sort of lever, is to move the aircraft to the front, one joystick in the center to actually move the aircraft up and down, and there are again pedals, okay. And like the brakes of your bike, those pedals actually allow you to move left and right. So your aircraft actually can move up. So this, if this is an aircraft, move up and down using this control. It can move faster or slower using this control, and it can tilt like this way or this way, like, by using these pedals. Like in car you have accelerator and brake, like they have also two pedals to turn or to tilt the aircraft left and right. So these are the earlier designs, like even these MiG-21 Bison and Sukhoi fighter aircrafts have this sort of controls. But the modern flyby wire and flyby optics, controls provide only simple control, like you do in helicopters. Just one joysticks, you move it by pressing some button here, and it will move. So your forward motion, your reverse motion, your tilt, all are done by only single particular, task or activity. So that's where efficiency come into picture. So, and you cannot waste time when you are actually going for a war or fly, in the fighter aircraft. So you need to consider time as one of the key important aspects that you need to reduce. So efficiency is one of the important component that you will consider, okay. Next is memorability. Memorability is again, important. If you see the previous eras, the aircrafts like the Sukhois, they have like they have controls, buttons, and these are not digital. They used to have analog, left, on the left side, on the right side, on the top. They have multiple buttons, navigational, controls. So all sort of interactive elements, components they used to have, and it is not easy for someone who to memorize all of this, okay. So reducing memory, memorability, oh sorry, like the complexity in memorizing is very important. When you're designing a interface, you will try to make it minimalistic. Either you provide provision for recall, or you make it simpler with legibility of information, okay. So this is again one of the important thing. Next is, and yeah,
Hello. Yeah.
yes.
Actually, I am having another client call, so I need to drop off this call. So
Okay, okay, okay. This, see, the videos will be
bye bye.
available in YouTube. So please search in the YouTube like usability engineering live classes, probably with my name. Probably it will be available in a week time. Okay, so if you missed somehow these
Okay.
classes, however, this is not advisable because it
Mhm.
will not help you, understanding or interacting with me. Okay, in the
Mhm.
live sessions. Okay, okay.
So when will be the next time we will connect?
Next, like every Tuesday, 6 to 8.
Okay, great, great, great. So thank you very much for
Okay.
your knowledge. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so errors. So when we uh, come to errors, this is again one of the very important component that we need to consider when we're designing a such a complex interface. The position of the buttons, there should not be, accidental press of buttons. There should not be accidental, you know or there should not be lack of information. So things what should be in visible range should be in your direct vision. Things which needs to be in your peripheral vision needs to be in peripheral vision. So those uh, aspects you need to consider. So you need to make sure you design your interface free from errors. Okay. So these errors are two types. One is like human errors. The another is systemic errors. So I'm not talking here about systemic errors. Systemic errors may occur at any time. Like this happens, sometimes without, intended, without intention. However, human errors can occur if you do not design your interface with keeping in mind the ergonomics aspects of it. So your design should consider the possibility of errors and also the prevention of it. Okay.
Yes.
Uh, Next is satisfaction. Okay. So satisfaction is not something I think is much of importance because the pilots who actually fly a aircraft, it's their professional job. They are much more motivated to do their duties rather than satisfying with the interaction. Okay, so I don't think so this is something of much important to consider. Although it's not, I'm not saying like this is not required, but this is like something that is obviously it should be there. I mean, the pilots are their motivation level is at the next level, and they are much their motivation level lies uh, with their involvement in defense. So probably, the satisfaction does not probably lie in the interface, the ease of interface, the navigation. So probably this may not be something of much importance. And then effectiveness. Again, effectiveness is a must. Okay, the and whatever you do in a flight control, it should be it it should do it with high accuracy. So you know this is something you need to consider in designing your interactions. Okay, so if you are making a touch sensitive controls like this person is doing, so you need to make sure the size of these buttons or the sensitivity of the interface should be very accurate, so that it should not make any sort of errors. Okay? So that sensitivity and the design aspects needs to be considered. Then comes your engagement. Now engagement, I'll say I'll say this is their daily jobs. Like, okay, I don't think so this will give them some sort of pleasure, like enter it will not, it's a matter for entertainment, or they are, it doesn't depend upon their decision whether they need to come back to that particular interface or not. I mean, this is something they have to do because it's their duty as a professor. So probably this choice, I think they do not expect also. And although it needs to be there, it's obvious that you need to make something engaging, but this is not a priority. Okay, so for such a fighter deck interface, probably someone will consider learnability, efficiency, memorability, errors, and effectiveness, engagement. Engagement probably will be least. So satisfaction and engagement probably will be least considered. Okay, uh, got it.
Yes, yes.
Next is for the medical device. So I'll quickly again go through it. So this is a medical device. Okay, so what is the purpose of a medical device? So the purpose is to do diagnostics. Okay, so this is something for this is something like a HRCT of thorax. Okay, so basically it scans the lungs region, and then a clinician can try to figure out what sort of issues or disease condition that particular person may came across. Okay, so for a designer, the placement of information, okay, because this not only involve interaction from the navigation point of view, probably this will not involve much navigation, probably this will be more like a static information, probably a little bit of navigation on the left side, and probably here, but most of the information here will be static information. So for this sort of interfaces, the priority is given to the visual information, like the placement of visual information. So the aspects of visual communication come into picture. So visual communication is not only about designing graffitis, or like comics, or visual artworks, but it also plays an important role in your user interface design. So this determines like what sort of information, like visual information, but so it have two aspects. One is visual, so you have visual content, okay, which is the information. Now how to place the information, the elements or the features across this window, so that it is easy for the user, which is the doctor, to make the diagnostic decisions. Okay, so for example, here the designer decided that, okay, this is the most important aspects of this particular interface, which is primarily taken almost 70 60% of the area of this interface. Okay, because this is the most important information one need to consider. Then additional information, like, okay, if the doctor wants to control this CT scanning machine in a live run, so there are actually options to select, and probably that will give a new image. And similar to that, there are other information which probably help the clinician to save the files, or to detect or to retrieve previous historical information of the patient. So these information are again kept at this side. Okay, so positioning of the features and elements of the interface matters here. So let's see which components are important here. So the first is learnability. Okay, so learnability is, I think it's not of much concern here because this is a very simple interface, and the task is also the functionalities are also very visual based. Okay, so there are not much information overloading or information processing required. Only the one need to consider how to position the informations, how to make the appropriate display of information. So the ones that are most prominent and important, those need to take the central positions. So for that, you need not to learn, you need to consider learnability aspect that much. Although this needs to be there, but it's not something must have. Efficiency. Okay. Now efficiency is required because whenever a clinician actually is controlling the CT scan, the information that actually displays needs to be in sync. Okay, and if there are changes, okay, for example, this particular set of controls allow easy control of the mechanical parts of the CT scan machine. So CT scan machine is something like a big uh, you know cylindrical structure, and then in between you have a table. And when you actually select these, probably the bed tilt or move forward or tilt, and the CT scan probably scan and then give a new picture here. So these are actually shortcuts. These are somehow it's providing some sort of shortcuts to the clinician. He do not have to actually manually control the system, or he do not have to select multiple options here. He so this interface gave him a very simple matrix type of interface where he can actually select using some sort of checkboxes, and then he can actually uh, get the desired picture here. So efficiency is one of the important aspects that one need to consider. Memorability, again, memorability is not something here required because this is very simple design. And from requirement perspective, as I said before, like in a design you have information design, then you have interaction design. So interface design involves information design as well as interaction design. So in terms of information, the informations are like fixed, like you do not have new things to know about, like the position of the information is already fixed. So you need one information from image data, then the selection of the body parts, and then the past or the historical data of the patient. So information is again set as minimalistic. Interaction design is again not much because this is a static kind of interface where there is not much navigation from window to window. So interaction is also minimum. So since a requirement which comes from the core requirements from the clinical perspective, so memorability of information or memorability of interactive features is not of much important. I mean, this is obvious that this system will be easy to memorize. Okay, now errors. Okay, so errors is one need to consider because this is something to deal with safety of the user. The system should display correct information. The system, whatever controls the system is making to the main device, should be also error free. And if something happens, the system should help the user or the doctor to recover from errors. So error is one thing, something that one needs to consider. Okay, then satisfaction is again, the satisfaction is something which generally we consider when we think like someone whether when we decide when we need to decide whether to return to that particular application or not. But this is again a duty, like something that the clinician needs to do it do with it in their daily life activities. So probably this is something required but not of much importance. Effectiveness. Again, effectiveness is important because this deals with the accuracy of your selection, accuracy of your choices, accuracy of the information that has been displayed. Okay, so all sort of things, the interface needs to deal with. So effectiveness is one important component that one need to consider. uh, Lastly, this is engaging. So engaging is again like these two aspects generally does not hold required here. It's not much important because again this is not something like some the clinician is using this application for entertainment or one time use. It's their daily job, it's their professional activity. So engagement is not something they are looking for in, they are more looking for something which is functionally accurate, effective, efficient, error free, and only these three aspects. So for medical device like a diagnostic device like a CT machine, if someone needs to ask you like what components you'll be considering, okay, then probably you can say like, okay, I'll be considering efficiency, error free, and effectiveness as well. So these are like not important, like important, but not like key components to consider. Okay, any doubts here?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so next is something to clarify about utility, usability, and usefulness. Okay, so are they same? So what do you think about these terminologies? Any answer?
Sir, useful, able to be used for a practical purpose or in several ways.
Okay. Okay, let me start from utility. Okay, so utility defines whether a interface provides the required features or not. It only check whether the interface provides the required features or not. Okay, so if a particular interface provide the required functionalities, required features, then you say like, okay, this there is a utility of this particular interface. I mean, it is from the perspective of functional requirement. So a interface, when satisfy the functional requirements, when it provides all sort of features that one requires, say you call it like it's satisfying the utility. Okay. Usability is something, as I told you, it assesses the ease of interaction. Okay. So whether a interface or a interaction is easy or not. Okay. How easily you can actually accomplish some set of tasks. Okay, so basically overall interactions, whether the interactions are easy or not. Now usefulness, you call it when you have both usability and utility. Got it? You call something
Yes.
useful when It provides the necessary functional requirements and also ease of interaction. So these two aspects, when you cover, you say something is useful. You call that interface is useful. So this is something you need to understand. Okay. So those who are in product design, I mean, like most of the people who do not design products from the design perspective, from the perspective of user need or usability, who design from the engineering perspective or technical perspective, they, although they sometimes satisfy the functional requirements, probably they sometimes do not satisfy the interaction requirements. They probably miss providing a ease of easy to interact interfaces. So when you actually achieve both, functional requirements and ease of interaction, you achieve a interactive interface which is useful. Okay. Okay, let's take an example. Okay. So let's see. Do you know what is a VR headset? Virtual reality. Virtual
Yes.
reality headset. Have you used virtual
No,
reality?
sir. I have never.
Okay, so basically these headsets, there are cheaper version also which actually uses phone in the front, and you have Google Cardboard box, and then you can actually try to visualize certain applications or all sort of things then you can do in a mobile interface. Okay. But there are also the better models which actually give you one-stop solution for all sort of things, like it replaces a complete mobile phone or entertainment system. So you can watch movies, so you can, what is the use, so you can watch movies, so you can watch, you can play games.
Yes.
Then there are also different, like you can do world tour, virtual tour. There are virtual tour. There are also educational information, all sort of things that you can do. Okay, there are similar to mobile smartphones. They have also app store. From here actually you can download these things, and then you can actually experience this. So when you actually wear this, you will actually feel like you are within that particular environment. So if you are standing here, you actually see everything around you, and you will have a immersive experience. Okay. Now here's an application. Application is watching movie in a VR headset. Now this there are applications. Now let's talk about the utility. Now what is the utility? The utility, from the utility perspective, since you don't have experience, let me tell you these things. So you have certain applications like big screen, using which you can actually watch movies. Okay, you can actually watch Amazon Prime videos, Netflix videos using this, and you will actually see the movie as if you are in a theater. Okay, but now from the utility perspective, this particular headset actually provide the necessary features. So you have access to Amazon, you have access to Netflix, and you can actually watch movies there. Now let's talk about usability. So usability deals with ease of interaction. Okay, ease of interaction. So when you talk about ease of interaction, like in computers, when you want to open a Amazon, the Amazon Prime videos, it's very easy for you because you are used to mouse and keyboard. you can just go log in and select your movie and then watch. However, here you have these controls, and these are like joysticks for games. For typing, so far there are no such virtual keyboard available which are like well tuned for this virtual navigation or control. So what you actually see for typing movie names is a virtual keyboard, and one by one, using these keys, you actually have to type your movie name. So in terms of ease of interaction, it is not there. Okay, so it's in comparison to your computers, or in comparison to your mobile phones, so the usability suffers a bit. So you can say the overall usefulness of this particular VR headset in watching movie is less than your smartphone. Got it? So if someone asks you the question like, okay, I want to watch a movie in a VR headset using that particular application, will it be useful? Then you will say, okay, smartphone, use Amazon application. Can do you provide Amazon application? Yes. That means utility is satisfied. Okay, functional requirements it provides. Now interaction, ease of interaction. Does how easy is the interaction? Thus, the number of steps it provides is easy compared to your smartphone. If it says like, oh, it's not easy, that means it is, because the sum of these two is usefulness, so it's not that useful. Okay. Okay. So next, okay, let's take another example. So you want to use a mobile banking app to apply for a credit card. So have you tried applying for a credit card using mobile banking app? So I'll tell you my experience. Like like in 2000, I think 16, I tried booking, applying for a credit card using the mobile Axis Bank mobile application app, and I applied there. However, I find that like the information you actually provide in the mobile application is not in sync with the desktop application. Okay, and also the kind of interaction that is necessary here is very difficult. I mean, to apply, you need to provide all sort of information that is equivalent to your desktop application. So see, a desktop application have a window size of this big. So for a credit card application, you have all sort of information like name, bank details, all sort of information you can provide. However, when you have to make something for a mobile application, and then everything when it gets small, typing, using those keyboards, filling information there, it is really difficult. Okay, so the one of the bad experience I have is like, I tried this several times, and later I realized that actually this is some dummy information actually they are keeping. Still it's in their beta version, so it's in 2016. And the actual information still they do not fetch to the bank. Okay, similar to Axis Bank, there are other features like, if you see Canara Bank. Okay, so those who know about Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. Okay, Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana is something that you can save some money for your daughter. So Canara Bank, both desktop, okay, and mobile application says like, okay, like deposit money for Sukanya Samriddhi. But when you click and go inside, you will never reach to a page where actually you can send money or transfer money. So this is like information which is missing, the interaction missing. Okay. So in terms of utility, if you say, probably like they provide that functionality. Okay. But probability from the functional they provide those functional features. But when it comes to ease of interaction, okay, I was not able to reach there. Okay. So till date also I don't know if they have those facilities or not, because after that I never used these applications for doing those stuff. Okay. So here again you can say, although a particular application provide the functional features, it only you can only say that this particular application have utility. However, if you want to say that this particular application or interface is useful, then you need to also get the information on the nature of interactions. And if you find that the interaction is easy and it is it's not very difficult, then only you can say that, okay, this particular application is useful. Okay, clear? Okay, so next is like we talked a lot about what is usability, what are the components of usability, what is utility, what is usability and usefulness. Now, how to improve usability? Okay, that means how to tweak, how one needs to do the improvement. Okay, so for that what we do is usability study. So the goal of the usability study is to control those 7 components. So as I discussed before, these 7 components. So the goal of usability is to satisfy whatever you're looking for, like the components of usability. But how to do that? Okay, so there are different methods. Okay, there are some formative methods. So formative means when you choose certain metrics as a developer, as a designer. So based on your requirement, if the particular application satisfied, then you said, okay, this we did the usability study, this is performing well. So this is what uh, you do in house, okay, at the time of development and design. The other way to do it is via user testing. Okay, so what is user testing? So basically in user testing you first identify the representative user for your application or interface. Okay, so I cannot say like for a banking application I will choose someone like my brother or my sister who doesn't have a experience in banking. Okay, I mean in going to a bank. So if you want to develop a new banking app, at least you need to identify representative user, like someone who actually have gone through bank and they know the different transactions that actually happens in a physical transactions when they actually go to a bank. Next, you ask the user to perform the activities. Okay, so whenever you are designing a new interface, you find a representative user and then ask to carry on that particular activity, like which you provided through your application. Okay, you record that Okay, you record that, and later you observe, or you can also use different techniques to record. So video recording is one of the way. There are other ways also, like think alert protocols, and also there are various techniques which you can use to observe and record the information. And using those information, you actually try to uh, identify what sort of shortcomings and what sort of benefits you provided with your application. Okay, so shortcomings and benefits, and whenever you find like there are some sort of shortfalls, then you try to improve and iterate the design. Okay. So this is how actually you do uh, you is actually work on usability aspects of a product, and you improve the usability of a product by improvising the interface. And to improve the interface design, you need to get the feedback from user via user testing. Okay. Okay, so in summary, so this is the overall set of 7 activities that's how we actually work on usability aspects in a application design or in a product design. So first, we gather the information from the user. Okay, so in a real life scenario, for example, if you want to make a banking app, you actually first go to the natural habitat, like actually to the bank, and then do a field study to see how the users interact, how they behave, what sort of interaction actually happens. So from here actually you get the functional requirements and the information requirement. Using this information, you come up with a conceptual model conceptual model for your design. So this is more like a initial level design, which based on your field study and observation, you understand what sort of functions is required, what sort of information, transactions or information flow required in your system. So based on that, you first develop some sort of conceptual model for your design, basically some concepts. Then you test your competitor design. So whatever exists in competition, like if you are making a new application for bank, so there are already banking applications available from Axis Bank or Canara Bank or SBI. You try to test those competitors design with the features, having the features that you are actually also trying to develop. Okay, and before you actually starting improvising your conceptual model, you first test the old designs, like whatever existing, to identify the good elements of it, the good aspects of it, to keep. Okay, so you do not discard the habits that other customers already are used to in using the banking applications. And then you improvise on the bad aspects of it, the bad component, the bad features which you feel are troublesome for users. So this you do via user testing. Okay, so in user testing, you do multiple user testing with competitive uh, products, and then you get to know what are their bad and good things, what are their bad things in comparison to your conceptual model. And then make your you make changes to your design and come up with your, this is where you change your design and then come up with a paper prototype. So paper prototypes are low fidelity prototypes that actually help you you know bring a solution to realization faster, and these are sometimes very look alike. Okay, very much look alike to the actual products. Okay, there are also softwares also. If you are developing applications, there are also softwares like Figma and Balsamic, which actually one can use to develop low fidelity prototypes, and then use the sprint tools and give customer to test. And now next time when you are done with the competitor product testing, you make those changes, keep the good things, and the changes, make the changes to the bad things, and test the new design. Okay. Okay, after that you refine your design multiple times with multiple user testing. Okay, and once you satisfy with the user testing results, then you inspect them with a set of usability guidelines. Now, till here, as I discussed before, we are actually evaluating things from user testing. After that, when we are inspecting the design based on some usability guidelines, we call it heuristic evaluation. So heuristics are some set of guidelines that a particular system should have. So we treat any interactive system as a black box, and we apply these usability guidelines to check the the usability aspects of it. Okay, we try to identify the issues and challenges in navigation, in interaction. Okay, so there are set of guidelines, okay, available, so which are generic to all interactive systems. So for example, the Nelson-Stein heuristic principles are useful for graphical user interface design, and those are widely used for such heuristic evaluation. Okay, so once you get the user testing results, at the next level you inspect your design with this sort of guidelines, and then you finally implement your design and do a final testing. Okay, if in case there are further iteration required, you do that. Okay, so this is typically how we work on usability from the beginning of a interaction design project. Okay, any question? Okay. Okay, so
No,
let's
sir.
okay, so let's move to the next part. Okay, so next is some of the key concepts. So I'll quickly wrap up these things. So these are only definitions. So basically, whatever so far we are talking about is about usability, user experience, interaction design, information architecture. But these terms are not loosely defined. Like there are some sort of standards available in their definitions. So as a designer, when you interact with someone, so we need to have some sort of common base when we are talking about these terminologies. We cannot randomly use utility, usefulness, user experience. Okay, so these definitions, the standards, although there are no such UX specific standards available, however, some aspects of UX centric parameters are defined in the ISO 9241, which is called ergonomics of human system interactions. So here we get a lot of information about some of the UX centric standards. Okay, for example, ISO 9241 chapter 210 talked about human centered design for interactive system. Okay, then chapter 171 talk about guidance on software accessibility. Okay, so these standards define some of the important definitions that we need to understand for our course. So first is user experience and usability. So user experience, what is user experience? So see, nowadays like people like talked about user experience, it became a very fancy word. But you know what is defined in ISO 9241. So what is defined in ISO 9241 is something that we need to consider when we talked about user experience. So user experience is basically a person's perception and responses resulting from use and anticipated use of a product, system or service. So this includes users' emotions, beliefs, preferences, perceptions, physical and psychological responses, behavioral and accomplishment that occurs before and during and after use. So this is very important to consider before, during and after use. See, when we talked about a VR headset, for example, when you do not have the VR headset in your hand, okay, you still have some sort of anticipated use. Based on whatever I have explained today, probably you have some sort of anticipated use. You have some sort of, your perception about the use. You have some sort of emotion that generated, some sort of psychological, or like you feel excited probably, to acquire a VR headset probably. So those are like anticipated use. Okay. Then actually you buy that headset and then you try using it. Okay, and then you get to know, okay, how to actually watch a movie, how to play a game, how to do some educational program, all these things. So that is actually actual experience. And then you have post use experience. So once you are done, okay, now after some time you now have, after achieving the broad overview of your product, you have some left out experience, memories with your product that also became a part of your experience. So all these comes under user experience design. Okay. However, when we talked about usability, we only talked about the actual use. So usability, actually, usability define only across these things, actual use. So when a product or the interface is in use, only then we define the usability aspects of it. That means how easy the interaction is. We try to assess the ease of use. That is on the basis of actual use. It's not basis on anticipated use. It's not on the basis of post use, because anticipated use and post use can be biased. You know. Okay, so there's no guarantee that you will get actual information from these two sources. Okay, so this is not usability. Usability is only about actual use scenario where you measure the user experience. So user experience is a consequence of brand image. For example, if Apple launch a product, because of the brand image, you have an anticipated experience, use experience. Presentation, that is advertisement. Functionality is actually use. So brand image and presentation probably is something that give you an anticipated use. Then functionality, system performance, interactive behavior, assistive capability of the interactive system probably give you actual use experience. And then your users internal and physical state or psychological state resulting from prior experience, attitude, skill, all this defines the post use experience. Okay, so basically these are the some of the key factors which actually define the overall user experience. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So usability, as I said, like it's only deals with the actual use. So when interpreted from the perspective of a user's personal goal means when a user use a device in actual use, he already have a perspective, he already have a intention, goal to use. For example, if I use a mobile banking app, already I know that I want to open an account or I want to transfer money. So I already have some intention and perspective. So these are not actually anticipated or post use. So usability, when interpreted from the perspective of a user's personal goal, can include the kind of perceptual and emotional aspects typically associated with user experience. So what it tells you that usability defines the kind of user experience which actually happened during the actual use phase. Okay, and usability is, as I discussed before, is evaluated by two ways. One is that formative criteria. So formative criteria, basically at the time of development or at the time of testing, like in-house testing, we evaluated a particular interface based on certain matrices. Now the matrices are again defined from the requirements probably, and there are other methods like KLM, GOMS, keystroke, level method. So these are also again some of the techniques used for quantitatively analyze uh, keystroke type interfaces. Then there are other kind of analysis technique like heuristics. So where actually we consider a particular interface as a black box, and we evaluate those using certain heuristics and guidelines, and then we say okay. So this already I discussed here. Like first we did that formative user testing and formative evaluation, then we do a heuristic evaluation. So these things we will discuss in detail in the subsequent lectures. Formative will go details about KLM, GOMS, and Nelson heuristic. So these will be covered in detail. So this is an introductory class. So just today I just discussed a brief about like how we can what are different ways we can evaluate the usability of a system. Okay. So then these are again definitions. Okay. Interaction design. Interaction design, it is the design of a interaction between user and a product. So what is mean by design of interaction? Design of interaction means how we design. See, for example, here we have a medical device and there is some sort of pressure control here, and there's a start button, mode button, there is a minus and plus, and there is a back and forward. Okay, now in terms of interaction, what we see, like the controls that have been provided to the user are these 1 2 3 4 5 6 buttons. And in terms of information, so in terms of information design, we have this LCD. So what are the information design we require are these. So in the central piece, these are the most important information, and then we need the display the elapsed time. So this is the information design. This is the interaction design. Information design comes from what are part of interface design. When we call it UI design, user interface design, it is these two aspects: information design and interaction design. So in information design, we use the concepts of visual communication, color theory, all the design things to design the beautiful interface which should be legible, simple, so like this. Okay. So from the set of requirements, when we generate ideas, this is how it looks like. So the need is that should be some way to select the therapies, various therapies that this particular interface provided. So for that, the designer decided that okay, one mode button will be useful, but you need to press it multiple times. Like one press means this, second press means this, third press means this, and then repeat. So if there are three modes, then probably one single button will provide that, and then it will repeat. It will go in circle. Instead of putting three different buttons for three modes, this particular designer choose one particular button to select between three modes. Similarly, for selecting various parameters, like for pressure values, it says like okay, previous, next, plus, minus, to select and configure parameters. So this is again a design decision that a designer come with. So it's his idea like how actually we can navigate the important requirements and settings of this particular therapy. And the designer like identified that 4 buttons is sufficient to achieve it. Okay, so that's how he selected, he or she. Then for start, pausing and stopping, he said like, okay, let's only choose one particular tactile button for these 3 tasks. That means first time start, then press, probably a long press will be stop, or a single press will be resume. Oh, sorry, stop and resume. Okay, pause or resume. So these design decisions, like what sort of interactions is based on the designer's choice of facilitating certain functionalities to particular device, so in terms of information as well as in terms of interactions. So this is what is interaction design. Now human centric design, as I said before, what is user centric design? User centric design is something where we, for every decision, we keep user at the center and make choices based on the user requirements. However, from ISO standard, we define this from the perspective of human factors and ergonomics. Okay, and also human terms, human centered is used instead of user centered, because here we do not only consider the user, the end user, but also the person who is involved, who is a stakeholder to this particular product. For example, when you are designing this particular device, probably you may also need to think about the technician who will repair this. So probably you need to provide some sort of features so that that person can access or debug the system. Okay, so those thought process, when you include in your design, it's not that only you are designing a system for only the user. So here the user may be a patient or a doctor or a nurse. Okay, but you are also including a technician who is nothing but a stakeholder in the whole process. So ISO define, instead of user centric design, it defines the term as human centered design. Okay, clear? Okay, so next is information architecture. So again, this is what is defined in ISO. What is that? 9241. So information architecture defines the underlying organization, structure, and nomenclature that defines the relationship between site contents and functionality. So whenever we are designing any sort of system or interface, there is some sort of hierarchy of information. So the hierarchy of information is defined by something called information architecture. So we have information design and interaction design, right? And both are under interface UI design. So information design, so you need to have this particular information architecture. It's like how you navigate a particular website. So if you go to any website, you will find like search bar, then there are but columns, and then within each you will have another columns. So this looks like a I don't know exactly what is this for. It's probably a library, institute library website, but yeah, it's look more institutional. So there are tabs, multiple tabs. Then under each tab there are multiple paths, and if you click one of these, probably then there will be a change of pages. Okay, so these things, probably it will be a drop down menu. Every time you go here, probably this will show, and these all fall under the home screen. So this is how you use this information in a website design. Probably this information, when you project in your website, you will probably have only a home screen. So you have only a home screen, and then when you in the home screen, you probably will find these key, you know, sub uh, elements. Then under these sub elements, probably you will have these drop down menus. So the implementation is a different thing. Like, okay, this is a representation of how information is and information exists within the particular interface, and how you actually display this information in your interface is again a task of a information design or interaction design. Okay, let's take in the color plates. Okay. Okay, these are some common terminologies. System means a combination of interacting elements. So your computer is a system because it has a mouse, it has a keyboard, it has a display. So it has multiple interactive elements organized to achieve one or more stated purpose. Interactive system. So combination of hardware and software, service and people that user interact with in order to achieve specific goals. They're very simple definitions. Service, means of delivering value for customer by facilitating results the customer wants to achieve. So whatever results the customer wants to achieve, if you provide that, it's called a service. So user, again, user, person who interact with a system, product or service. So when I say interact with a system, this does not mean the end user. See, a technician should be also able to use interact with a system. So when you define something called a user, it not only define the end user but also the various stakeholders that actually interact with the system in case of any requirement. Human centered quality, the extent to which requirements for usability, accessibility, and user experience and avoidance of harm from use are met. Okay, so here we consider usability, accessibility. Okay, accessibility I'll define, then the user experience, and the harm, like safety. Avoidance of harm is safety. So when we consider these four aspects, we say we achieved a human-centered quality. Accessibility is the extent to which a particular product, system, or service can be used by people or a population with widest range of needs, characteristics, and capabilities. So needs means all sort of requirements from a wide range of population. So here your user testing helps. So when you do a field study and you come across a wide range of users, you gather information from all of them, and then you do user testing of the previous or the the competitive products, and you get to know about the real requirements. So that's how you gather wide range of user needs. Characteristics is again derived from user needs. Capabilities means probably the users may need different, they may have different capabilities. Probably some needs more visual information, some needs more tactile information, some needs probably auditory information, and some may be physically disabled, or who do not have an option, but they when you are designing a banking app, probably you need to consider those people also who are visually impaired. Okay? So when you consider in your design multimodal interactions, or interactions where people of different capabilities can interact, then you will say that your interface is a bit accessible to a wide range of population. Okay. Okay, so this is the final topic of today's class, and this is a important one. Okay, so are you clear so far? Any doubt?
Yes, sir, I have a doubt.
Yes, please.
Yes, so like in general context, we use user-centered design a lot.
Yes.
But like as you explained, like in ISO, human-centered design is much more given emphasis on. So why is it like that? Like in real life, we give more importance to user-centered design.
Okay, so when we
What is the difference between both?
okay, so the ISO 9241 actually trying to capture a wider, wider aspects of user-centric design. So when we say user, okay, normally the tendency of designers is to understand only the end user. Okay, so when we design a product, when we ask the person, okay, do a user study, then what happens? Like people from the design community, they directly reach to the representative user most of the time. So if I ask you to design a banking app, probably you will go directly and then you will start doing a field study in a bank, and you will try interviewing or observing people who are actually end user, who are actually users, who are actually doing the transactions. Okay, so that's the problem. We also need to consider the peoples who are actually who are the stakeholders in the entire process. Probably the bank manager, probably the the IIT, if you consider a organization under within which probably a, a particular bank service is provided, you need to also consider those people's opinion also in designing a particular application. So that you consider all the stakeholders. So what ISO try to define is a holistic uh, definition, where you said like we are not only considering the end user, but we are considering it as a human-centered design, where use or human the all the stakeholders uh, will be priority, and for every decisions will be consider the stakeholders importance, stakeholders needs, and also will consider the ergonomics and human factors part of it. So it gives a more wider definition than the traditional user-centric design approach. So am I clear?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so last topic, great model. So great model is basically defines a theoretical model of user experience system. So James Garrett is a research scholar and who defined uh, the UX design solution in the form of a five-stage conceptual model. So what the use of this particular model is that this can be used as a theoretical basis to understand existing interfaces. Also, this can be used as a methodology or process to design a new interface. So this can be used as a evaluation tool also, and this also can be used as a design tool also. So there are five layers. So front end, at the very surface level, we have to deal with what we see is the front end, the application layer. So generally, when you see any software application or any device application, even a medical device interface or a mobile phone application interface or any 3D printer interface, what we as a user interact is with the surface level, which is the front end application layer, and it deal with the sensory design. So user centric sensory designs, that means the design involve use of the visual elements, use of tactile information, use of sensory elements. Okay, so this is the surface level. Underneath the surface level we have the skeleton layer. So the skeleton layer defines the wireframe. Wireframe means this is the layer where the designer decide where the various features or elements will be positioned. Okay, so from here actually if you go down, you will reach to a level which is a bit abstract for the end user. However, it is not abstract for the design. For the designer, we start from the bottom. Okay, so we this is where we start as a designer, but this is how a user see the product. This is what users see, and this is what we initially started with. So there are two different levels, or the five different levels, how the overall user experience come into picture. So what users see is like basically the surface level, and slowly he understand like, okay, this is how the things are arranged. Like on the left side you have that, on the top you have that, on the right side you have that, at the center you have that. So all this skeleton, this is what the next thing that user can understand slowly. Underneath that there's a structure layer. Now structure layer actually holds the actual information structure. In case of a website, it is the hierarchy of pages. In case of a medical device, probably it is the detail, the options provided for therapies. Okay, and then when you move further down you have the scope layer, which actually defines the design specification based on which actually all these top layers have been formulated. So this is something hidden actually from the user perspective. Even users do not have a clue about sometimes about the structure, because unless a user navigate all across a particular website or interface, he may not be able to understand the overall structure or information flow of a particular website or application. Only what he will know is only these first two layers mostly. If he's an experienced user, then probably he will know about what is the overall structure of the information, and the actual design specification, like what should be the color, what should be the theme plate palette, what should be the radius of a button, what should all those informations are actually hidden at the scope layer, which is the specification the designer sets for designing all the above layers. And at the very bottom what we have, the underlying strategy based on which we have actually designed the whole product. So this is from where a user see a product, and this is what a designer design a product. And a user have a conceptual model, a conceptual model of a particular application. Like he have something, a mental model. Okay, so he have some sort of sorry, this is like a I made a mistake here. This is mental model. So user always have some sort of mental model for a particular application before even the use of a particular application. And a designer product provide a conceptual model. So based on his understanding, his user testing, and his identification, user provide a conceptual model. This conceptual model and the user's mental model and conceptual model, when these two matches, you have a good user experience. Means whatever anticipated by the user, that's what he is able to achieve. So it gives the satisfaction and engagement. That's why it's provided better user experience. Okay, so this is what is defined by the Jesse Games gate model. And the same model can be used also as a strategy, as a 5-layer framework strategy for designing new interfaces. Okay, how? So in for that we start from the bottom. So we start with strategy. Okay, so what we do in strategy, we actually try to achieve something. We try to understand what are the user needs, what are the value propositions we are going to provide, and what are our business goals. So if you are a company, you have a business goal. If you are a social entrepreneur, you have some sort of value proposition you are going to give. And if like you also have user needs. Okay, so these are some of the examples, like what do you strategize at the very bottom of a UX design projects. So at the very first thing you do is you strategize, then you do the scoping. So basically what you do in the scoping, you come up with the functional specifications. Now this is just a representation. There are tools and techniques from strategy to scope. When we move, you use various tools and techniques. From scope to structure, there are tools and techniques. Now, I'm not discussing about these tools and techniques. I'm here just giving a overview of these particular 5 layer strategies. So in the scoping layer, you come up with the functional specifications and the content requirement. See, content requirement is again information design, and functional specification is interaction design. So these two aspects you take care at the very first second layer. Okay, after user needs and objectives, you have the product functional requirements as well as the information requirements. Then based on that, what you do on the content requirement, you do the information architecture. This is what is done at the structure layer, and based on the functional specification, you do the interaction design. Okay, and then on the top, you do the interface design. So you here do the navigational design, you plan the layout, okay, where to keep what, you want to keep what in the center, what you want to keep on the top, what you want to keep at the bottom. So all this navigation and interface design you do. This is like a skeleton. So there are a lot of softwares which help you in doing that. And then at the top you have the sensory design, so which is basically the the surface layer which actually the user interacts with. So you there think about visual communication, you think about color, contrast, like what sort of a gradient or information, like legibility of information, all these things you consider at the top. Okay, so that is great model, uh, and which defines this 5 layer framework for conceptual modeling the user experience, and also this can be used as a as a framework for designing new interfaces. Okay, so any doubts, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's the end of this today's lecture. So I'll be taking this lecture series every Tuesday. Probably today it got a bit late. I'll try to wrap up in the next class within 2 hours. This is the first class, and probably I took too much content for this particular session. However, the goal is to make you understand the important aspects. Okay, and hope this session is useful for all of you. And if you have any doubts, you can contact me. I'm just messaging my contact number, and also these videos will be uploaded. So those who have not attended the initial portion, they can actually access. So the benefit of using attending the live classes is that instead of you actually attending the entire 5 6 lectures within one live session, you can actually get clarified on most of the core concepts of the NPTEL classes. So I try to
Was very
cover,
informative.
yeah, so I try to cover the first
Yes,
four
sir.
lectures, and in the next class I will cover the week 2 lectures, and I will also try to give you more examples and hands-on experience. Like I'll try to realize you with by giving examples, like what sort of techniques or methods we are dealing with. Okay. Okay, thank you very much all of you for attending today's session. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.